Hey everyone, this is Christian, Produce Garden Christian. Now, I just had this kind of idea of doing like real quick garden talks, like kind of like a podcast, but not really a podcast, just like for 10 minutes. That's probably a good name, 10-minute podcast. Just to kind of go over a few things and talk while I'm driving home in the rain. The reason I'm kind of doing today's one there was a particular topic I wanted to talk about, and that was kind of backyard gardening, because I'm getting back into backyard gardening. We had a small holding and we've moved back to the burbs pretty much, well, very much, and now we've got starting the veg garden again. But it kind of made me think, I've built and designed, I don't know, probably literally hundreds of gardens, garden beds, backyard gardens, veg, fruit, all that kind of stuff. But when I was doing mine, there was a few things that I took into consideration when I'm planning it out. I'll do a separate video on that where I can actually kind of draw and show you and stuff like that. But I had a little squiz around on YouTube and stuff about, like things to kind of take into consideration and look out for, and, all that kind of stuff as far as when you're planning a garden. And it just, and it was all relevant, in the sense, it was all good. None of it, was wrong or anything like that. Don't take me wrong. But a lot of it was just complicated. And too involved, if you know what I mean. I think I'll go over this in the video, but there's just a few things that you really need to consider when you're planning and building a veg garden, or any kind of garden in particular, but particularly a veg garden in your backyard. I think if things get overcomplicated, it gets too busy and people will kind of get a bit jaded with it, and then that's when vegetable gardens just become weed fests and they're not looked after and all that kind of stuff. I remember when I was doing my own gardening business, so to speak, building people's gardens and stuff like that, the labor, not so much the design. A lot of the times, I reckon 4 out of 10 were jobs where we were going back, or I was going back, to people who had built their veg gardens and didn't kind of observe a few things as far as, where to build it and all that kind of stuff. And they just got kind of jack of it after a while, and it just became weeds, just literally 5 foot tall weeds. And they just didn't want to deal with it. The grass grew in, and they just left it, because then it's even more of a pain in the ass because you've let it go to weed. So you don't want to have to pull all that out again, when really there was a few things that you could have taken into consideration to begin with to make it so you wouldn't end up in that situation, you know what I mean? I think a lot of it is don't bite off more than you can chew. So if you a lot of people, and it's nice, but a lot of people have this ideal in their head of growing all their own fruit and veg, but that is a massive amount of fruit and veg. If you have a regular diet of fruit and veg, so to speak, that's immense. That's a lot, and if you can do it, then good luck to you. But there's a lot to take into consideration, you know what I mean? So especially fruit, I always found fruit, because it has a limited season, obviously, preserving and stuff like that. Say you like peaches and you want to bottle or can peaches for yourself to have through the year. If you eat them even on a semi-regular basis, that's a lot of peaches, and that means a lot of trees, and that's a lot of work at certain periods of the year to ensure you get that crop. And what if you don't? What if birds get in under your nets and destroy them all, or you know what I mean? There's lots of variables, but it's a lot of work. So I think even though that's admirable to have that kind of sentiment of, you know, let's grow everything. I think ideally you need to kind of, this is what happens with me, right? You need to be honest with yourself about what you will put the time and effort into. Start off small and then go from there. So like, I had a small, with our small holding, it's a perfect example, right? Like I had a small garden bed, and that was nice, and then I, you know, built that up, and then I had one that had a chicken coop attached and all that stuff, and that's probably the one I think of the most as far as like fond memories go of growing my own veg. And that was about, area wise, probably 16 square meters. It was roughly 4 by 4. And then I got really kind of high in the sky, and that's when I started the 1/4 acre project. If you remember, if you've watched my videos in the past, you would have seen that a few years ago. Now that just became a monster to kind of deal with, and it didn't help that, you know, there were other things going on at the time, and we had kids, and, you know, all these other contributing factors that, you know, take spare time away from you, and it just, you know, died in the arse basically. I don't mean to sound crass, but it did, and I bit off more than I could chew, and I had bigger expectations of what I was going to be able to achieve in the time that I had than what I really or realistically could. So even if, let's say you decide that you want to have a raised garden bed, or you want to grow some veg, like I said, start off small and just you could have a pot or a few pots and just grow in those, and grow things that are applicable to what you want. It might be a case of you just growing some herbs for yourself. Say you use a lot of parsley or oregano, okay? If you grow that stuff and you soon forget about it, it goes to seed and you end up throwing the pot away, chances are a bigger bed is going to have the same kind of fate. Now you can go and get raised garden beds that are about, I think the ones we got at home now, that if you see the videos, you'll see we're kind of in the process of putting them together and filling them and stuff like that. They're 2 by 1 meter in lineal, what's the word? No, I was going to say lineal, no, square meters, 2 by 1, and by 400. So what's that cubic? It's about 0.8 of a cubic meter. So 2 meters by 1 meter by 400 mil high is what I'm trying to get out. You could get one of those. They're about $100. That's us. It might be cheaper where you are. You might be able to salvage or scrounge some stuff somewhere. Put some soil into it. Grow stuff that you like to eat. Lettuce, tomatoes, whatever. I knew a guy once who, pretty much like me, loved growing tomatoes. Wasn't a real big fan of growing anything else. So he would grow tomatoes through the season, late spring, right through to when it was getting too cold. And then in the off season, so to speak, he would just cover them with black plastic that he put over the top so the weeds wouldn't grow in there, and he'd just leave it, and then next tomato season he'd start again. I don't think he rotated his beds or anything like that. It was just real basic. But if that's a thing for you to do, then cool, go with that. That was what he was prepared to do. He didn't want to do any other work, like during the year, grow other things and stuff like that, and that's how he rolled. So what I'm trying to say is basically don't overcomplicate everything for yourself. Be realistic about what you are going to grow and what you are going to look after as far as beds and all that kind of stuff, and gardens and all that kind of stuff, and just take little steps and just grow from there. Believe me, if you start off with a few pots and then a few more pots and then a bed, that kind of growing of everything is a real joy. Like, the journey will be wonderful for you. Like, you'll really enjoy yourself. So there's no kind of rush, you know, there's no need to like jump in feet first and then you know, try to paddle after that. Just see how you go. Alright, I think we're up to 10 minutes. I really want to keep it around 10 minutes. So, pardon my cough. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, please chuck them in the comments below. I don't get a lot of comments, so chances are, if you have a question or anything, I'll pretty much answer it for you. So it's not like there's hundreds there and I can't keep up. So feel free to ask any questions below. Alright, hope you're all doing well with the whole COVID thing that's going on at the moment. Wherever you are, stay safe, get out in the garden, have some fun, enjoy yourself, don't bite off more than you can chew, and I will talk to you again soon. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.